how you doing? My name is Patrick with Crank Amplification, and I'm here today to introduce you to the Crank RevSeries 1 Plus amplifier. This is a 120 watt all tube amp, 6550 tubes in the power section, 12AX7s in the preamp. The RevSeries 1 Plus is a 120 watt all tube amplifier, 6550 tubes in the power section, 12AX7s in the preamp. The first control here on the amplifier is the power switch. You always want to let the amp warm up before you start using it. Go ahead and turn the power on. Let it go for a minute or so, get those power tubes nice and hot. Then go ahead and flip your standby switch on. The first control here is the presence knob. This is going to adjust the overall amount of cut or presence of the amplifier in the mix. Second control here is your sweep knob. This is going to adjust what frequency range that the tone controls are working in. What you change on this knob is going to affect the bass, mid, and treble, and vice versa. If you picture a graphic EQ, you can see how the sweep control would kind of slide up and down on that EQ from lows to highs and accentuate those frequencies more. Classic basic bass, mid, and treble controls. You got two master volume controls on this amplifier, allowing you a lead channel volume along with a rhythm channel volume. When you first turn the amp on, it's always a good idea to keep those controls pretty low and adjust them accordingly. The gain control here is going to adjust how much breakup, how much gain you need for your signal. Settings on that are going to vary depending on what kind of pickups you have in your guitar and your playing style, music style. The crank amps are an extremely high gain amplifier. You'll always want to set that gain control low at first and bring it up as you need it. It's not necessary with a lot of classic amplifiers. It's always your first impulse is to want to go ahead and peg that gain. It's not necessary with this amplifier. It's got ample reserve of gain on hand, so use that control sparingly. Another new feature with the RevSeries 1 Plus, the clean channel, is now incorporated a boost function, which allows you a much wider range of tones than with the previous Rev design. We had a lot of customers give us requests for a little bit hotter sound, something that broke up a little bit more, a little more grit. And with the boost function off, it gives you that classic Rev clean channel. When you engage the boost function, you get a little bit more grittier tones, something a little hotter, more of a Texas type tone. I'd like to go over the features and the functions on the rear panel of the RevSeries Plus for you. The first connection that you're going to make back here is your AC. The amp has a standard IEC AC cable connector. Once you get that hooked up, make sure that your voltage selector is in the correct position. Here in North America we use 120 volt setting. There are other possible voltage settings for the amplifier. It's usable around the world with the right setup. Your next connection here would be for your foot switch. This is obviously where your foot switch plugs into. You can also change the channels from the clean channel to the crank channel with this button right here. Your next feature here would be the effects loop. You've got a send and return. The send would go out to the input of your effect unit, and of course the return comes back from the output of the effects. There's an adjustable boost on the effects loop. Some effects units you'll find that they do not have the kind of drive that the power section on a tube amplifier is going to require. So you can always kick that level back up with this function. It's a very useful feature. Some units will take a lot of, they'll zap a lot of tone and level out of your signal, and this can get that signal right back up to a level that the power amp can use. You've got two speaker jacks here. The first speaker jack is always the one that's marked number 1 is the one that you want to use first. If you're going to use additional cabinets, you can always hook them up to this second jack later on. The ohm selector should always be set to the correct setting for whatever kind of speaker load you're putting on the amplifier. If If you've got a 116 ohm cabinet, of course, you set this for 16 ohms, and there are other combinations possible depending on how many speaker cabs you are hooking up. We'll go over that in a later part on the video. You also have a line out function on the amplifier. This can be used to run out to a second power amplifier or a mixing console or tuner. There are different functions for it, and you'll get varying results depending on what exactly you're trying to do with it. Another important thing to remember with the line out is to always have a speaker connected to the amplifier, even if you're just using the line out for recording purposes. I've seen more than one amplifier come back to the factory damaged because somebody just used the line out to go out to a recording console rather than use the speaker out as well. A tube amp always has to have a speaker load on it. You can risk severe damage to the output transformer, the power tubes, or both, and it can be a costly repair. So make sure that you always have a speaker load connected to your tube amp. The RevSeries 1 Plus comes stock with Sovtech 6550 power tubes and Ruby high-grade 12AX7 preamp tubes. It is possible to use other type power tubes, but always be sure and have a qualified tube amp technician have the amp rebiased for that particular tube type setting. As far as the preamp tubes, we use Ruby 12AX7 high-grade, low noise, very high output tubes. Tubes are warranted on the crank amps for 90 days. This is our RevSeries speaker cabinet, 4x12. It's constructed of solid wood poplar shell. The sides, top and bottom, all solid construction, solid wood construction. The only plywood construction on the cabinet is the baffle where the speakers are mounted and the back panel. It's about 2 inches taller than your standard 4x12, about 2 inches deeper. The solid wood construction coupled with the oversize really gives the cabinet a big resonant tone. It's really beefy. Compare it side by side with any 4x12 and you'll really hear the difference. All of our crank 4x12 cabinets are made in the USA. We load them with Eminence speakers from the Eminence factory in Kentucky. The RevSeries cabinets come with V12 Legends. The V12 Legends are rated for 120 watts each, making it a 480 watt possible load on the cabinet. All of our cabinets have a 1-year warranty.